Woo! Hey everybody! What's going on? So, this is Ranger Eric, hitting at you again. This is our Friday 15 at 2:15. So every Friday we want to hit you up and talk a little nature to you. So, welcome. We're here at our SEED headquarters. SEED obviously is an acronym for the Center for Environmental Education and Discovery. And it's actually in the building of, the mansion of, it's what's called the Washington Lodge. And this building dates back to, I guess, the late 1800s, where George Constant Washington, that's how it got its name, the Washington Lodge. George Constant Washington, not the president, he was a chemist actually that came to this country to make a better life for him and his family. And he ended up inventing the process of freeze-drying coffee. So he's kind of like touted as being the inventor of instant coffee. So, but really it was the process of, the mass-produced process of, but whatever you want to call it. But he also invented a bunch of other stuff, bouillon cubes and whatever. And he made this discovery about the time of World War I, I guess. And he must have gotten a government contract. His coffee went around the world, and it really not only made him a lot of money, but really kind of changed the nature of coffee drinkers around the world. So I, being a coffee drinker as well, am thankful for instant coffee. But George Constant Washington was a pretty eccentric guy, and he moved here and built this mansion on all these acres here, and his intention was to build his factories, but it also allowed him to explore his eccentricness. And he ended up getting a whole menagerie of animals here. And I know he had monkeys, and he was always seen around town with a macaw on his shoulder. There's a pond out back where you could see that he used to keep his flamingos. So yeah, he just had a whole bunch of animals, which were kind of, duplicating in some way. We have all of our animal ambassadors living here now full-time too. But obviously birds were near and dear to him. I know last week for our Friday 15, I was talking birds too, but then I was talking about eggs. And so today I thought I should talk about feathers, because I've been finding a few feathers around, namely a bunch of these. And we'll put anybody to the test if you want to see if you can identify this bird species. Look at all these feathers that I found. So obviously this bird probably didn't escape attack. But if you can really see, there's yellow. The shaft of the feathers are yellow. And they have a particular, they're mostly black with like a white half spotted pattern on them. And these are actually the feathers from a flicker. And you can even tell which type of flicker it is. Obviously it's a yellow shafted flicker because the shaft of each feather is yellow. And so if it was a red shafted flicker, you would know that those shafts would be red. And then there's even a gilded woodpecker, which is kind of an orangey color. But what's fun upon further investigation, so these are all long, stiff feathers. So they're either from the wings or the tail. And if you look at them carefully, you can actually tell if it's a left-handed feather or a right-handed feather. So it's fun to take a close look. So first off, we got to do a quick anatomy lesson on a feather. So we're scientists. We got to name everything. So the shaft that you see, the shaft of the feather, is actually called the midrib, if you will, or the quill. Usually quill is referring to this part down here because you might be able to cut it at an angle, dip it in ink, and write with it like your quill pen. And then as you come up, you'll see that it's made up of 2 veins. So you got a vein on this side. This is pretty thin, and a thicker vein over here. So these are, oh wow, look at all the people jumping in here. Hey everybody. Julia, Linda, Audrey, thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. So, so we're looking at 2 different veins here on the feather. And then the vein itself is made up of all these barbs. So you'll see the each one of them there. And they're all held together by a nice little tension there. And those are actually the barbules that are holding it on. So when you see a little tear like this in the feather, which can happen from time to time if you bump into a branch or whatever, the bird is constantly preening itself. So whenever you see a bird preening, not only are they perhaps spreading oils around to keep their feathers watertight, but also they're sealing up these little breaks. And if I just make a little bird beak right here with my fingers and like slightly pinch it and pull it up, then look at that. The break is healed magically. And that's those little barbules hooking. You're just rehooking the hooks like Velcro. It can unhook and reattach, and you can do this all day. So, yep. So you can do like that. So, all right. So now, if you look at the fact that there's an unequal vein to the feather, then the narrowest edge would be going forwards. All right. And then to see if it's left or right, you have to look at the feather sideways, and you'll see that it has a slight bend to it. So that bend always arches down. So you think about an airplane wing, they kind of hang down a little bit like that. So, so now I would know that this is a left-handed feather. So let's see if we can find a right-handed one. Yep. All right. So here's a right-handed one. There we go. So you'll see then that these two have the, so if you look at the bend there, they're both like an upside down U or a frown. Then this would have been a right-handed feather, and this would have been a left-handed. And then furthermore, digging through these feathers, I came across this one. And this is a real special feather from the flicker. This is the very center tail feather. So it's not left or right. It's exactly perfectly even. And this is, you won't be able to hear it probably, but try. It's stiff. It's really, the whole feather is bolstered and stiff. And it being in the center of their tail, they actually, when they grab onto the side of the tree, they actually lean back against their tail feather. So it's purposefully very stiff and very pointed to help them prop up, kind of like a tripod. So they land with their 2 feet and then they fall back onto their tail feather to help prop them up and take off some of the pressure off hanging on with their feet. So I just find that really spectacular. I've only found a few of these in my life, that center tail feather. But feathers, come in a wide variety of surprising colors and shapes. So I brought out some of the feathers that I have in my collection to share with you. And probably the feathers that are nearest and dearest to my heart are these. And for many years I had rescued a red-tailed hawk and was using her. It took me a year to get her to trust me enough to stand on my arm to do programs. So and having her for several years, she had gone through several molts, and I had saved some of her feathers, not realizing that one day, of course, she would be gone. And indeed, she did pass away eventually. And these are the only 3 feathers I have left to remind me of her. Her name was Spirit, and she was a lovely red-tailed hawk, a fierce girl. And she never lost being never lost that wild heart. And she was forever wild. But she did gain my trust, or I gained her trust, to sit on my arm, and that I would protect her through those scary school programs with all those scary children, in her mind at least. So, but yeah, I do miss Spirit indeed. But these are the red tail feathers of a red-tailed hawk that you would normally see, right? This is a nice crow feather. I love my corvids, and I can tell here this is a right-handed flight feather. Beautiful black. Now, goose feathers, you can find goose feathers everywhere, all over parks and golf courses and places like that. I guess it's kind of late spring, so after the geese have nested and their chicks hatch, that means the geese are not going to go anywhere. They're not going to leave their babies behind. So then is a great time for them to shed and molt their flight feathers. So pretty much en masse, they drop a bunch of their flight feathers to regrow them while they're grounded anyways with their kids. So that's a great time to find lots of Canada geese feathers out there. This dude is pretty special here. This was and I have a salvage permit, for all these things, but this poor great horned owl was, I found it on the side of the road right next to the LIE. So it must have tried to catch something that was walking like a mouse or whatever on the side of the road and didn't see the car coming and got hit. And I was able to salvage a wing from it. And I wish you guys could feel this. Super, super soft. Really incredibly soft. And probably not going to hear anything. It's a silent flyer. All right, so I only have a minute or two left. Something we've been finding a lot around here, because we have a nice size flock of about at least a dozen, maybe 15 or so, and that's our turkeys. And this is a wing feather from a turkey, and these are some of the tail feathers. And this is some of the contour feathers, and they have a nice iridescence to them. And speaking of that, so there are different types of feathers on a bird. Obviously, we said there's flight feathers, and those are going to be found on their wings and really kind of tail. It's those stiffer feathers that you'll find on the tail. There's the contour feathers, which give them their nice shape. So check this out. These are lovely contour feathers from different types of chickens. And it looks like a smooth surface, and it is, but it's really just, I want you to remember, it's made up of hundreds of feathers that make up that contour and give them a nice, easy, smooth shape that water can just bead off and come right off. But deep down into those feathers, you'll see that you need downy as well. And the downy parts are what helps keep the bird warm in those cold winter months. And feathers can be unusual shapes, like this is from a male mallard duck. This is one of their tail feathers. And look how every single one of them has a special curve to the tail. Check that out. How does that even work? I don't know. But probably the most interesting of them all are these. These are basically flight feathers that have gone crazy. And these are from one of our largest of the ratites. Ratites are the flightless birds, you remember? And this is from an ostrich. And they don't fly, so they don't need their feathers to stay nice and tight like a turkey wing feather. So theirs can be softer and fluffier to help them combat the heat in the Serengeti. All right, I'm out of time. Promised I'd keep this to 15 minutes. This is a cool one from a guinea fowl, also from Africa, from the Serengeti. Beautiful pattern. And lastly, I'll end with a lot of people's favorite birds, and that's the blue jay. And the blue jays are, they have this nice, pretty, I'm having a hard time getting the blue to reflect here with the light coming from all different angles. And this is actually refraction. They're blue. Blue jays are blue because of refraction. And if you pass light through, if I just change this slightly so light is passing through them, you'll see they quickly turn to black. So blue jays are really black and white birds, but by a trick of light, they can bend light on the surface of their feathers, kind of like iridescent butterflies, and have like a translucence to them. So yeah, so the blue jays are not really blue, although you do see blue on them. So all right, so that's about all I can share with you today in 15 minutes, and we'll either me or somebody else will be back for next Friday for our next Friday 15 at 2:15. Hope to see you there. This is Ranger Eric signing off.